Hello and welcome back here to Nordic Impact Business Summit, streaming live from Copenhagen studio. It's 4 p.m. and we are about to look a little bit at how you match founders and investors on social values. We have Alexander Tönnesson from Estonia, from Cocoon Venture, and they work a lot on that course. So I'll hand it over to Alexander and a few other investors to talk about this. And Alexander, welcome.
Yes. Okay. Hi. I also see two of my guests, Aasi and Margus, and we will introduce them also later a bit longer. So we're both investors as well as I am, and all of us also quite a lot of interested in softer side of the life, and maybe a bit unexpected to have three investors talking about challenges and how they influence our lives. So, but I want to start with a small experiment. So I don't really know how many people are watching. However, if we switch to the next slide, which is an empty one, it's because I want you to actually come here and arrive, and we're going to do a small exercise to do that, which is also connected to today's topic, and what I call is emotional due diligence. And you can do it with your eyes closed, you can keep them open, it doesn't really matter. However, you need to kind of look into yourself for a moment, and I'm going to name different emotions and feelings and just see if you can register that particular feeling in you or not. So with an eyes closed, it's a bit easier, and then what you can do is then just note that, okay, so this feeling or emotion was present at that moment. You can write it down, but you don't need to. It's just to arrive here and just to do a small self-check before we start. So you can close your eyes now or keep them open and check whether you feel any anxiety. Are you feeling any shame? Is there any guilt present? What about fear? Are you feeling any anger? Do you feel sadness? Do you feel joy? Is there any excitement, including sexual excitement? Do you feel calm? Do you feel connected? How about being curious? Or compassionate? Are you feeling right now confident? Courageous? Are you feeling that you have clarity? Thank you. And we'll come back to that in the ending part of my presentation, which is very short anyways. But if you want, you can make a mental note. What did you notice inside yourself, and maybe use it later on. But now if we switch to the next slide, then so basically Cocoon is kind of like, I would even call it a de-acceleration program, not an acceleration program. It's a year long, and it's built on principle that in order to grow your business, you need to change something. So if you do everything as you do today, expecting different results, it's not really going to happen. And what we really do believe is that the change only can come from the founder itself. So it's not that much the business itself, but the founder who needs to change. And that's the only way you can grow business. So if we switch to the next one, the core principle which we believe we build the businesses on, as it's on this next slide. When guys, could we switch to the next slide? Yes, already the next one. Is that every business challenge which you are faced with can be connected to the founders and founder psychology. So in order to solve the challenges, as Richard was also doing the introduction for today's topic, that you can really do it three ways. You can ignore that the problem exists, and finally, hoping that it goes away. You can cure the symptoms, meaning that the kind of solve it on the face value, or you can then go deeper and see, why are we having this challenge? Is that important to me? Is it a recurring challenge? Is there something I need to change in myself? Is the team something that needs to be changed in the team dynamics? So this is kind of the link between the business challenge and the founder psychology, which we're also going to talk about in the panel. So in the next slide, what we also really believe in is that in order for you to succeed in business, your kind of personal life goals need to be aligned with business life goals. And one way to see it is that, are we having similar challenges in business as we have in personal life? So it's very often they go hand in hand. They come in different forms, but they very often come from the same place. So kind of life is showing us the same side in the different formats for us to pay attention. And it's very difficult to do well on either side, either on the personal side or on the business side, if these things are not aligned well. And now, if we've switched to the next slide, there's 4 emotions I want to show you. So basically, there's different models. The easiest one is that there's four emotions, such as being happy, being sad, being afraid or having fear, and being angry. And then, so this is what we did also in the beginning of today's seminar. So we were kind of checking in, are we feeling any of those? And now, if we think and switch to the next picture, in reality, you can say that there is only one true emotion, which is, next one please, a desire. So, and this is one way how, and I really wanted to make this small seminar part kind of useful for the listeners, is like kind of how to take the information out of the emotions which we have. So you can use emotions quite well as a navigation in your life, kind of seeing where and which kind of topics do matter to you, and when which doesn't seem to be that relevant. And the ones which trigger emotions in us are definitely something to look deeper into. Now, if we take a look at these 4 emotions, which are, I would say, most likely present in our everyday lives, and most likely several times, when if looking from the perspective of a desire, if we switch to the next slide, then happiness is really a desire to live. So whenever you're happy, one way to look at it and one way to kind of try to figure out what is your life path, for example, is looking at the things that make you joy. So desire to live means that these are the things that makes your life desirable. And if we switch to the next one, being sad is more a tricky one, because this is the desire to change. And that what very often happens is that we, especially with entrepreneurs, is that we want to change the world. And the true reason behind it is that we wouldn't have to change ourselves. So whenever you're feeling sadness, this translates into desire to change something inside of you. So not outside of you, but inside of you. Next one, being afraid, fear, is a desire to escape. So specifically when we are in a situation where we're afraid of something, when the fear emotion comes up, it's really, really good to look inside of you. So what are we trying to escape? Are we trying to escape the responsibility? This is very often the case. Are we trying to escape failure, feeling failure? Sometimes we're even trying to escape being successful, which could be much more scarier than failing. And the last one, being angry, on the next one, is a desire to fight. So what are we fighting for? So whenever anger comes up, are we fighting for self-respect? What are we fighting for? So this is kind of one way to work with emotions. And I think we can now switch off the presentation side and move to the panel. Yes, that one we can skip. And I'm going. So the idea kind of behind my presentation was just to introduce kind of one tool which I use as also investor to work with my own emotions, but also looking into the investment cases. And now, as you see, we have two other investors present here. And these guys, I know for a fact, have spent quite a lot of time looking very deeply inside themselves and also what happens around in the world. So we're very curious learning about themselves, but also what happens around of them. But I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I'm going to ambush them in a way by asking them a question which they only knew like half an hour before it happened. So can you introduce yourself with a few sentences? So kind of what you do, and please also answer a question. What is what you believe in? And there's no way you can prove that it exists. So maybe Pasi, you go first, and then Margus.
Thanks for giving me the first one. So okay, that your question I didn't know. But anyways, I have a family business, family office. I used to be in a family business, but now I have a family office, and I'm the Cocoon called, and I have invested into 20 plus startups, also serving many boards, and also I'm a CEO of a creative app platform called Sumo Apps. I'm also, late bloomer as an investor. I'm 55. I have 3 + 2 kids, second time married. So maybe that is enough from my personal perspective. And the challenge, what you threw out, can you please repeat that one more time? So what?
So the question was, so if I define believing into something, so I really like kind of the definition of believing. It's something which there's absolutely no way you can prove it's true or exists. So what do you believe in? One thing.
One thing, humanity. Do I need to go further? So it's just so it's I believe in us. So that the problems that we have created, that we're able to solve them, if we want.
Okay, thank you, Pasi. So, Margus, could you also introduce yourself shortly and then answer the same question? Is there anything you believe in? Maybe you don't believe in anything, who knows?
Right. Hi, I'm Margus. I'm a partner at Karma Ventures. And Karma Ventures is a 70 million euro fund investing in deep tech across all Europe. And then we like to invest in early stage, in kind of seed phase, late seed, and A rounds. And deep tech, we define technologies as technologies which are complex enough that if some of the large strategic players is looking at the technology, they might think it's better to acquire it than to start to replicate or start to build them, the same solutions themselves. And maybe something in our philosophy, we'd like to say that we don't do investments, we do partnerships. And this is something that we really want to qualify and understand. Is it potentially a partnership, or is it a investor-founder relationship? And then for us, it's quite a difference. Now, on what I believe in, I cannot prove. I have thought somehow a lot about life, and And I thought, like particularly in earlier years, I thought it would be important to define how life happens to us. And I came up with 3 possible solutions, so which are not original ones. One is that life is random, that everything that happens to us is random. You know, you bump into another person, you discuss, and this is random. Or you were offered a job, or you became a founder. That's random, actually. Now, second thing is where there is also kind of early enough evidence that everything is predetermined, that there is no free will or free choice, and some kind of early, maybe too early scientific evidence is on the kind of brain level defined for that. And then one assumption where there is also kind of some scientists have been and made claims is that my thinking influence the future, not only my action, but my thinking, my vision. In your words, which is definitely a separate topic, interesting to discuss if desire is part of it. But my vision is influencing the world. And I have kind of concluded that most probably I believe that my vision has influence, not only my action, but my vision and thoughts. And that's why when we look at startups as well, we really try to understand what is a founder vision, and not only what it is, but why it is, and why it really matters to the founder. Because it's not, you know, it's common to say that it is not easy to build a startup and go to growth stories. There are a lot of challenges in a traditional sense. And this vision, this internal power, what you get from your own vision, this gives you the power and strength to go through the tough times. Your vision is your source of energy, potentially. And we have found it working incredibly well. So maybe this is briefly who I am and what I believe in, but I still cannot prove.
Thank you so much. And Margus, I just have to ask, do you believe in karma?
I absolutely believe being founder of Karma Ventures.
So, but you brought actually up a very interesting topic, and one of the, let's say, things which I've been thinking a lot, and I think it's been fought for centuries, if not thousands of years, is kind of that life is hard in a way, right? So there's, even if you look at the emotions, there's only one which is positive, happiness, and then anger and sadness and fear. All of them we actually experience not in a good way, even though actually I think by no means they are negative emotions. And now if we take challenges and the second theory of life being predetermined, then it kind of seems that, or it might seem like that these, whatever we do, we are faced with challenges. But now I have a question to Pasi in this regard. So how do you define challenge in the context of business? But I mean, you cannot really draw a line between the business and the personal life, but I do think that the definition of challenge is kind of crucial.
It is, yes. Actually, you stopped me over there with a challenge, and I personally think that it's totally up to your mindset. So I'd start with myself, since only after that I'm able to put the kind of the challenge in its all right perspective, into the own level. Time-wise, knowledge-wise, data-wise, environment-wise. The interesting aspect is the peer-wise. Where do I get support? Where do I mirror things? And I've seen that's the challenge, and having peer support and peers mirroring around you actually helps you to define the challenge within yourself. Also, we have the energy aspects and action aspects also in the challenge. But as I've seen in my people around me, that let's say that they are suffering from depression. For them, getting up from the bed on a daily basis can be a huge challenge. And of course, for us, I'm functioning normally, that wouldn't be the one. And then for someone wanting to save the planet, it's not a challenge enough. So really, I would go for the the mindset of setting the challenge. I don't have a better description of that.
Thank you. This is actually pretty good. Maybe, Margus, if I would ask you the same question, but from a different perspective, is that if you would choose one challenge from your own life and now put it in the context of what the challenge definition for you is, through that example, what would it be?
I'd like to be free of challenges. So challenges, it relates to me that there is something complicating, there is something tricky in my mind. And challenges might be inspiring ones that gives you energy. And challenges might be the ones which make you afraid, passive, not active, and making decisions that might harm yourself or somebody else. I'll bring you an example. So people say that raising money for startup or raising a fund is a hard thing. It's a challenge, right? And I guess most founders would agree to it. Now, if you step in, for example, if you take coal miner who is doing hard physical work, mining coal, and you tell him that fundraising is hard, and he would ask how the fundraising looks like. I go to nice office buildings, I drink coffee, I show 25 slides, I talk to smart people, and this is hard. It doesn't look hard, right? Versus being 100 or 200 meters underground and mining coal or gold or whatever. So why it's hard is because of our expectations. We'll meet investor, and we expect investor to say yes. And maybe I translate it, maybe Alexander, to your words as desire. I have desire for outcome, and this creates challenge. And if I'm not able to relate myself to challenge right, it makes my life hard. And then I say life is hard. But objectively looking, if I don't have desire on that particular meeting to get yes from investor, but all I want to do is I try to understand, if the business, what I do, makes sense for the investor, does he invest in this stuff? I make my best presentation I can, and if it's not right fit, why to expect yes? So the expectations in our mind, which we are somehow attached to, even subconsciously we are attached to, are creating challenges. And it might be that it is possible to drop the expectations, but dropping expectations doesn't mean passive state or not doing your best. You're fulfilling your vision, but you are free from desire or attachment. You are fulfilling your vision, you are full of energy, you do your best, and the outcome is what it is. In my life, I believe my thoughts have influence. I cannot prove it. But I don't have challenge, effect of challenge that potentially has harmful effect on my body, on my thinking, on my decisions and emotions if I'm not being able to get rid of those.
Can I add to that?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
The normal thing that we say if you go for after money, you will get advice. But if you go for advice, you might get the money.
Yep.
I've seen that. When they approach to me, I sometimes I'm taking a very a kind of scientific approach to the pitching, and then I which actually would be better in my case, and asking for advice and not talk about the money at all actually works for me.
Yes, so thank you. So if I share my personal challenge in life, so for me, for example, it's self-importance. So I have defined or like identified that right quite a while ago, and I have now like no clue how to get rid of it. So I'm kind of like trying to slowly work towards it, and definitely this what we're doing today is not helping. This is just increasing my self-importance. But now if we take this as an example and looking from the investor's perspective, so if we do investment decisions, if I do or you, Margus, or Pasi, we look a lot of different aspects, and so that the whole process is called due diligence. It could be quite long, it could be quite tedious, it could be tiring, both for founders and investors. And one of the things which I found one day was that if I were looking kind of at our due diligence list in Build It Hardware Seed Fund, then I discovered that we are asking them 173 questions, and all of them were based on hard values, kind of like what is your revenue, what's the market size, what's your go-to-market strategy, what is the experience of the team. And really almost nothing on the other side. And that kind of started me thinking that now if we come back to the challenges, and the work we have done in the Cocoon has shown that very often a business challenge is just a reflection of kind of like a founder's personal challenges from the world. So the world is kind of reflecting back to you. And now if I'm bringing this question to you guys, in the sense that have you noticed that many founders go through similar challenges, or they are faced with similar challenges, and you can almost always trace that back to a personal challenge, such as fundraising very often. I guess often it's not succeeding because of low self-belief or of high self-importance. So there could be a lot of things. So my question to you guys is, and maybe Pasi will take it first, and then Margus, is that, so have you seen such challenges? Maybe just few examples. What are those? And how are they connected to kind of to the personal self of the founder? And is this influencing your investment decision? So you see that the founder is going through a challenge, business challenge. You know that this indicates a certain thing in his personal life, and is that influencing your decision to make investment or not?
Okay, I'll go first. First of all, I've after 20 rounds of investments, I've come to the conclusion that I'd like to pass the kind of the hard value stuff to a co-investor. So hopefully there's someone who is an Excel freak or has the 172 questions and they can deal with that. And I'll take the softer aspect always. So I try to, I really want to dig very deep, how they think, what is their life, what is about, what are the values, how do they realize in their life actually the values that they are after. And this has been increasing after my life coaching, where I coach myself first, and then I coach CEOs and founders generally in the startup scene, and it's they go hand in hand. And as we discovered, the problems on personal sides affect to professional side and vice versa. And I've seen everything but a founder suicide, but everything else I have seen. And when things get tricky, the business effects are immediate. So and people think that they're able to cope with separating the lives, but it never works. So that's sad but true. But usually when business starts to fall apart, I usually go, what is your personal, how is your personal life going? But before even that, my biggest investment criteria is kind of in a way randomness. I once even made an example that I screened 10 startups approaching the accelerator program from far away at the door, looking only how they walk.
Okay.
And I had money for 2 to invest, and I could pick up the ones that I would invest already at the door, never seen or heard them before, only by the way they walk, because that tells me something, because I'm the observer. I'm the person who walks in the studio and sees what's wrong with the person on the right corner. And they say, oh, you noticed. Yes, I just passed by, but I saw that, the vibes were like that. So for me, the soft values is everything. I'm focusing a lot from them. How are the business challenges reflect to personal challenges, and where the person is within him or herself.
Thank you, Pasi. Before Margus, you answer, I have a provocative question to you, Pasi. If you know that the founder at the same time is going through a divorce, would you invest?
Actually, I haven't come across with that. Divorce, having gone through that myself, it has quite a lot of dimensions. How you deal with that, how much anger you feel, that actually, when I'm able to poke a little bit here and there and see what kind of reaction I get, and if I get the feeling, a gut feeling that this person has got a lot to do with that, then I would say that it would affect negatively. But the other thing I need to point out that I also pay attention to stupid things like smoking. And none of my founders smoke. Just sounds stupid, but for me it makes sense. But so divorce and smoking, I don't know how they connect, but anyways. Yes.
Probably there's a correlation.
Yeah.
Yes, Margus, you have a huge portfolio, so I'm sure there's like 100 business challenges every day, and like active challenges all of the time. And have you found kind of patterns?
So when I was in university and then finished it, there was one speech someone gave, and it's really like end of university, and then the guy said, "Truth is grey." And only like many years later, I started to think about it. That every rule we create, that this is high probability, this is the right selection, this is a methodology, that is example of opposite. So I guess some smokers have been successful in business as well, but it just tells that most probably truth is grey. I know one fund in US, when they go through the hard questions like traction and growth and so on, then suddenly one partner would ask from the founder, "And your mother loves you?" And then looking at reactions. So and that's like creative. And I wonder how to build the correlation now. What is the response and what is the success rate later? But there is also something, as I described also earlier, we are looking for partnerships, and then potentially taking investor on board. You might have, our team is 4 people at the moment. You might take 4 people additionally on board whose brain you can use or not. And then we are looking very much for openness to discuss together and to see if there is more potential. And if it's only money that the founder wants, then it can be success, but it's probably not us as investor in that company. So we try to understand the openness, and there is also something that makes you wonder. It's kind of responsibility to understand if for that particular founder, building a growth company is not a too hard task that might cause too much suffering for a particular person. And it goes into, many are willing to do it, not many are capable of doing it, and for many it's a cause of a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, a lot of challenges. And it's a good question, should investors fund startups where it might cause a lot of human problems, or there is a potential like challenges opportunity. We invested in one company where during the DD process, one of the competitors came out to is, getting to 50 million revenues, and it might sound initially like a threat, right? Your competitors is already at 50 million and then doing quite the same. And the founder was, wow, it took them so long time. So you see that the business challenge is not the pain or fear or anxiety, but it's a kind of opportunity, it's energy, it's creativity that comes out from the challenge. And investors should be more responsible for backing people who have these characters, versus potentially backing and demanding, in later stage, investors getting much more tougher. And then I have been myself mental coach for some founders where, C&T round investors join, and it's a different world. So we should be very careful in making decisions on the soft values, which in a way are significantly more important than the hard criteria.
This is very interesting to hear, because I guess that's not what people would expect from out of an investor. So and I'm kind of very glad to hear it, and definitely hope that this will kind of also be true for later rounds, as you said. But on that, and that's also our last question today, is that do you somehow, either of you, test founders for these, let's say, personality traits or soft values? So there's a lot of tests like personal PI index, and there's DISC tests, and there's many of those which try to kind of measure, for example, if the person is good fit for the position they are in the company, and also kind of what is the team dynamics. So do you believe in these tests? And are you using one, or would you use one? So Margus and then Pasi.
Yeah. So we don't use these type of tests, and then maybe from experience seeing that when I was CEO for energy infrastructure company here in Estonia, it was 1,000 people, and we tested all line managers and seniors, and there was one young manager who went through the management potential test, and the outcome was, the consultants told me that you can do with this guy whatever you want, but he's not the manager, he's not the leader, so never make him manager. And you know what, he's right now the CEO of that company, doing incredibly good job. So after that, I'm kind of skeptical what these tests can tell you. And what I see most as a kind of prediction for good outcome is being honest to yourself, which is super tricky topic. We lie to ourselves like 200 times per day, subconsciously, consciously, we cheat ourselves and so on. And the more honest you can be to yourself, the better decisions, the more clarity you have in mind, the less conflicts you have, the less challenges you have, the more solutions you have in a way. And it takes a lot of time to train to get honest. I know one person who made a blog post after 2 years and like trying every day not to lie, and telling how it goes over time. And it has a very significant impact. And if we see that the person is it sounds like the person is honest to him herself, then we are reasonably excited.
Thank you. That was a very nice closing remark, Pasi. So
yes, I can just shortly say that I once learned from the from a music friend of mine that he said that never close a deal before getting drunk with that person. So I actually haven't applied that too much, but in the early stage as an investor, I actually did. So and we actually took off for a short trip to just find out what he's made of. So I don't believe in the tests that much, but I believe in the other people that reflect on my behalf. Also the personality of the potential startup founder.
Okay, so as I understand, smoking not good, drinking good.
You might put it that way. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys, so much. I guess we could talk for 3 hours, going a bit more philosophical with each step, but unfortunately, we're out of time. So, Richard, word goes back to you, and thank you, Margus, so much. Thank you, Pasi, so much for joining today. And yes, I'm going to use Margus your words and finish with. But I think the biggest challenge indeed is being honest to yourself in life in general. So thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Alexander and Pasi and Margus from Estonia and Finland, talking about how you match founders and investors on soft values. I think it's really inspiring on how this part of the Nordics actually like to take it a little bit further. We can learn here from the western part of the Nordics, and whether it's to be honest on yourself or maybe drink a little bit more, I don't know, but it was a very inspiring and great conversation there. Coming up at 4:50 p.m. we will talk about something totally different, because we know with this challenge we have in the world and the green transitions, we talk very much about reducing CO2 and transform our energy systems and a lot of other things. But what about life science? How can life science play a role in the green transition as technology, as products, or as an industry as such? If you're interested in that, and I guess you are, be back at 4:50, because we will introduce some good people that have a lot of insights in that industry. So see you soon.